Free the South is a cause and organization designed to bring awareness to incarceration in the southern states of the U.S. I'm sure you all have heard of the term mass incarceration, which is referring to the excessive growing rate of people incarcerated. And this all began in 1970 and has got to the point where we're spending over $80 billion a year for incarceration. We have made a slight decline, but not enough of a decline. We are less than 5% of the world's population, and we are 25% of the prison population. We are by far the number one country that over incarcerates people, and we spend more money on incarceration than we do for our public school system. On average, it's just an total average by all the states. Each state is probably spending 2 to 3 times more for one prisoner than they are for one student in K through 12. And it's very unproductive to our society. It's very unproductive as far as bringing lower incarceration rates. We find that excessive punishment does not necessarily reduce the chance of a person continuing a crime. And if you have them in a violent environment, it actually is going to increase the likeliness of crime. So all that we're doing and all that we've done to get us here as far as mass incarceration is concerned has been unproductive. It has been detrimental to our communities, has broken families, and it has not made our communities safer. So in Free the South, it's bringing awareness to that, focusing on the southern states because they have specific issues that are often they're not even held accountable for, because if you don't live there, you're not aware of them. So Free the South is just bringing awareness to those southern states that have not yet chosen to do any type of prison reform or do some dramatic changes to help those incarcerated and help reduce the excessive prison population. Unfortunately, when the mass incarceration started in the 1970s, a lot of politicians had this tough on crime approach. They used, different, like someone committed a crime and they would publicize it and show how horrific it was. Not that it was so prevalent, but that's how they promoted it, where, we need to be tough on crime. Do the crime, do the time. And unfortunately, we still have so many people that have that mentality to this day. And even though it is detrimental, they had excessive, very hard, tough on crime laws for even juveniles, as we find now are still mentally developing and are going through stages and aren't fully developed till they're 25, 26. And it's very sad to see children getting 10, 15, 20 life in prison over dumb, basically stupid choices. I hate to say it like that, but basically they weren't thinking about the consequences of what they were doing, and they made that decision. Yes, they're old enough. I hear a lot of people, well, they're old enough to know right from wrong. Absolutely. Babies from, I think, 1 to 2 are able to know right from wrong. We know that at a young age, but do we actually think about the consequences? Not as an adolescent, you don't. So to have adolescents getting these extreme sentences for non-murderous crimes is just a crying shame. And really in the South, The states that I find to be that I'm mainly targeting are like Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina. In Florida, they're doing some reform, and I believe Alabama has done some as well. But Mississippi, Louisiana, and South Carolina, they are horrific. I've read cases after cases of teenagers getting life sentences for going to the liquor store and stealing something. It's tragic. I've seen teenagers get 10, 15 years. Tragic. And I don't think that we as a nation should accept it when one state is doing something that is morally wrong and destroying lives. Just as the South has played a major role in slavery, a prison still plays a major role into that, unfortunately. It is used for people to make money, and they are people who are convicted of a crime are legalized slaves. And if you have questions about that, read the 13th Amendment. It's legalized slavery. When slavery was abolished, being convicted of a crime was the only legalized way slavery could continue. And I don't think that that's by a coincidence that the South is always the slowest ones to move towards change. And it's just heartbreaking. We're going through so much unprecedented times right now. And at least people who are free are able to make their own choices. But you're incarcerated in a detrimental, inhumane environment at high risk of getting COVID and having no source, nobody to really fight for you. Something has got to give. The people who could be free need to be set free. And I am trying to hold these states accountable because they're the ones who get away with not doing anything. South Carolina, a lot of states are freeing people. South Carolina did not free any of their prisoners, and it's heartbreaking. They're not trying to do the right thing. Louisiana and Mississippi, they're having horrendous, inhumane conditions, still not trying to do the right thing by these people who are incarcerated. And that's what Free the South is all about. Bringing awareness to someone in California, a child, a juvenile, getting an opportunity to get the support. Okay, you've committed a crime with your brother. Let's see what we can do. Okay, we're going to put you in counseling, get you some resources, we're going to get you on probation, and we're going to monitor you, and we're going to give you the tools you need to be a productive member of society. Whereas if you live in South Carolina, you commit the same crime, that teenager is just charged as an adult, thrown in prison with adults, and raised in an unproductive, violent environment that will end up being harmful to their lives. What we really need to think about is not just punishment, as I said early on in this video, but truly rehabilitation. Because excessive punishment does not equate to reduction of crime or a change in the individual. It actually further damages them. Treating people like animals is not going to make them behave better once they're released. It's a trauma that has an impact on them mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, further distancing them from humanity, from the community, because the community further distance themselves from them. The Free the South is focused on bringing awareness to these major issues, these Southern issues that have been going on since the start of this country. through slavery, and we have to hold them accountable, because it's not about black or white. It's not about Democrat or Republican. It's about people. We are all people, and we should all have a humane approach into how we deal with people. And I'm not, people like to bring up, the people who kill or people who hurt children and stuff like that. Again, I still think we should have a humane approach, but oftentimes in these situations, they're getting less sentence than the people who are committing burglary and stuff like that. Oftentimes, sexual abuse of children doesn't get convicted, just for the record. And people who commit murder, sometimes they're able to make a plea deal. So you have people who didn't commit murder serving murderous time. And that's something to really think about, as what is the purpose we incarcerate? And when are we going to hold the southern states that have been stubborn throughout history accountable, and not allow them to continue to harm individuals just because we have state law? Like, the Supreme Court and we as a people should be able to hold these states accountable, just like they would California, just like they had to do for Texas, in California as well. But certain states, the federal government seems to overlook, and it's just not okay, especially as such a time as this. Free the South wants people to study. People like to argue without even studying. They just go by what they've heard, not by facts. If you look at the research, it's clearly there. And I think we have lost our love or humanity or positive regard for other human beings. If we could just put everyone in the same category, lock them up, dehumanize them, and not care what's happening to them. That shows that we don't even have a consciousness as a nation. That shows that we don't have a consciousness as a community. That shows we don't have a consciousness individually. So if individuals who say that they care for all people care for those incarcerated, especially in the South, because it's time to get people out. Thank you so much for your time. And I do make flyers and do different infographics to give you more information and about just the comparisons about the different states. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. And if you would like to support or offer your assistance, contact me. Thank you very much. And I appreciate your time, and I hope that you would at least take the time to do research about the southern states and incarceration. And if you care, get on board with Free the South. Thanks.